Hey everybody, welcome to the Dad Poet Society, where we try to make sure we take all the dad advice, dad hacks, dad tips, just anything we can and share it with you so that way you can go out and be the best dad on the planet. If you're not a dad, there are so many lessons, so many nuggets in here that you can take and utilize. You could utilize in business, in your community, uh, such good stuff. So without further ado, let me introduce my guest today. You got Jason Kramer. So true story, you're a big influence and inspiration to this because we literally would have like every few months we would schedule like I was always putting the calendar as Dads of Awesomeness chat kind of, and just I would steal all your dad of awesomeness advice and like I'm like, why not give it to the rest of the world? So thank you for being a big part of this, man.
Well, no, thank you. Because honestly, the same way for me is we would talk, we would kind of bounce ideas off each other and learn from each other. And to me, that's one of the best ways that I've learned and I move forward in things is what works for other people, bounce different ideas, and those conversations have been great, and I cherish those.
Awesome, me too. So thank you. Well. First question we ask is, so what do you do when you're not on dad duty?
That's a great question. That's a tough question because once you're dad, it's almost hard not to be on dad duty.
Does that exist?
Exactly. Because even when your kids aren't around, you're still typically thinking about your kids and what you need to do and what not to do. But at least for me, I do try to enjoy a little downtime. Sometimes there's projects around the house that I got to catch up on. Kid at heart, so still play a few video games and different things like that. And
which video games are you playing right now?
I'm more of an Xbox guy, and I was always a big Halo fan, and then some of the Star Wars based games.
Okay. So Star Wars, Halo. That's
exactly.
You can still have fun being a dad. So I'm sorry to like hijack your answer here, but JJ, we got a Nintendo Switch, and I think we talked about it before. Like we had it for a couple of years. It was just like he wasn't there yet where he could like really understand the stuff, and I was like fighting. We talked about it, like the whole video game thing. What do you do? How do you handle it? And but he got really into Pokemon, and then he saw my youngest brother play Zelda, and Erica's sister has a Switch and has Zelda. So yesterday I picked him. He was sick on Monday, so couldn't go to school. So pick him up from Erica's mom's, and it was the cutest thing. And he's like, "Dad, just sometimes I just get homesick. Sometimes I miss being home." I'm like,
that's cool.
That's so nice. He's like, "Yeah, I really miss Zelda." And I'm like,
great dad moment, but it's Zelda.
But like. Eric, I get in trouble because Erica was like, "You guys have been playing Zelda for hours," and it's like, so you can't turn it off, man.
It happens in our
house too.
It's
it's a part of you, and it's like I try to like again, you actively make sure the kids are doing other stuff, but when he's like, "Can I play Zelda?" You're just like, "Yes."
Exactly.
So I'm sorry, I cut you
off.
Oh,
not a problem. The same thing happens in our house sometimes because my son Jaden. Right now, he's big into Madden and FIFA and NBA 2K. So sometimes we'll challenge each other to games and all that.
There you go.
Sometimes he wins. Sometimes I occasionally pull one out, but he's better at it than I am.
There you go. Now, does he like create his own player and like drafts them and goes from there, or like how does?
He tends to, at least right now, is he'll play. He'll build his own teams.
Yep.
Not necessarily create his own player, but
do that fantasy draft to kick off.
And then so he'll do that, and then he'll go play other people online head to head, And then what he'll also do is
that I didn't even register. Yeah. They don't play, like, they don't go play against another person. They do, but like I'm gonna build my team to go play someone in like Europe or Asia or something. Like,
exactly.
That's a lot of pressure.
It can be, and it's funny because his competitive juices kick in, and when something's not going right, you hear him yelling at the TV. It's like, dude, remember, it's a video game. But then I find myself doing it later after whatever. But the other thing he loves to do too is, especially in NBA, is he likes going through seasons and taking like the worst team and saying, okay, can I play that GM? Can I not only play some of the games, but also reconstruct the roster to make them good and all that kind of stuff.
Win that championship.
Exactly.
So, but I feel like that's like the Cleveland sports fan in every one of us is like, it's like, how do I take the worst and make it the best? Because that's
we
like
live it almost every
year, dude. Every year.
So
that's awesome. Okay.
So doing that, and then also my kids are big soccer players. I was a soccer player growing up, so one thing I'm very involved with is the Willow Oak Soccer League.
Yep.
So even though my kids have moved on and are playing at different levels now, I'm still very much a part of that league for our community and trying to make that better and volunteering. So it's just fun watching all the kids out there playing, and then a lot of the parents that are involved and all that. So it's always a fun time.
Well, that was so like, and that's always been kind of one of my favorite moments. So it was like the annual, you're bringing in the plaque, like we get the Team IBB sponsorship and like bringing in the plaque and all that. I think it was like, Laura messaged me. She's like, we won the championship.
Yep.
We won, like just, so it was cool. Like I wasn't, I was terrible at soccer. That we've had these conversations. Yeah. He's also been my soccer therapist for helping JJ be a good sport. And dude, it worked though. It helped.
Did it?
Oh my gosh, man.
Well, good.
Thank you. But cool. So support Willowick Soccer.
Yeah.
And sneak some time in for Halo and Star Wars if you can.
Exactly.
So, okay.
Exactly.
All right. Very good. Now, question before we get into that, just on the video game stuff. I feel like a lot of what I was trying to teach JJ when he was like playing soccer, like it felt like it was like it's like you're on the sidelines, you're trying to like there's so much going on. I felt like video games because the same thing started happening, but he'd be playing a Pokemon master that is better than him, and his Pokemon start dying, and like he's like getting all upset, and then like I remember the last time it happened, he's like on the ground like just like end of the world. But it was one of and it's something that we like I use for him and Julia all the time on everything now, but it came from playing video games. I'm like JJ, because he wanted to quit, he wanted to turn it off, he wanted to give me the control. I'm like, do we throw a fit and panic? Like do we panic and quit and run away, or do we take a deep breath?
Yep.
And think it through, and just take a deep breath and think it through from the video game situation. It helped him because it was like, okay, well, what should we do next? Well, we should, and then what should we do? And he's only 5, right? So, but he just turned 6 now, so he should know this stuff, But it's carried over into everything, and I'd even be able to like if I goof something up, I'm like, JJ, did Dad take a breath and think it through? No, Dad, you need to take a breath and think it through. Like, okay. So, but I guess, is there any like video game moments for you with the kids where, I know me and my brother, we used to like get mad chuck, like break. So like, there's a lot of anger management opportunities involved.
Absolutely.
So, but I guess, is there anything that sticks out?
I think similar is one, if you're playing a single player game, sometimes you get frustrated when you can't defeat that obstacle or that boss or whatever. So it's okay. Sometimes take a break, think about it, learn from it. Apply a different approach, and then see if you can get successful. Or the other thing that happens with us, and this even translates to the real sports world, is like you mentioned the Switch. One of the things for a while there, especially through COVID and everything, is we were playing Mario Kart like as a family.
That's awesome.
So because we had 4 people going split screen, and it was just fun. And it's all fun, but it's competitive, and sometimes that competitiveness gets a little too heated. You got to dial it back a little bit. So it'll kind of the thought process there, and oddly enough, we would have the same type of conversation. I just had it with my daughter Mallory after a basketball game just a couple weeks ago. I mean, she was disappointed in the outcome of the game. She was disappointed in her play and her team. She actually played really well, but she was frustrated because the team lost a game that they could have won.
Yep.
And it was just a struggle for her. And it's like, you know what? It's okay to be disappointed, but keep it in perspective. I mean, it's a game. I'm not saying be happy about a loss, especially if it's something you care deeply about.
Yep.
But did you try your best? And if you tried your best, whatever happens and any effort in life, you can walk away with your head held high. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be satisfied with the result, but don't let
the outcome like rob you of the lesson or the what the work you put in type.
And then also keep it in perspective too. Is you're upset about a game, you want to get better, you want to improve, and that's great. But don't let that. You want that to drive your fuel to be better, but you don't want it to be so consuming that you're focusing only on the negative. And for her, that conversation was about basketball. We kind of had similar conversations about Mario Kart in the past. That was a little bit more of don't get mad at your brother because he just beat you type of thing, or vice versa. But then likewise, think about it: grades, job when you're older. I mean, we all have good days and bad days. So how do you process it? How do you deal with it? How do you move on from it? And what do you learn from it?
Awesome. Well, very good. Well, anything else to add on that? But before we dive into just how being a dad changed your life. I mean, it sounds like we're already getting into all that stuff. But
you know me. I get a little philosophical at times. I think the other thing for me is, and I've heard other people say it, so this is a little bit cliche-ish, but it's true, is there's no textbook for this. And there's a lot of books that have been written, but there's a reason why there's a lot of books. Is because there's no one answer. There's no one way. Your personality, your wife's personality, other people in your life's personality influence how you handle things. Your kids, you can have two kids with distinctly different personalities, possible challenges, different things that pique their interest, and you got to figure all that out. And you're kind of learning on the fly and adapting.
It's like this morning, like it's crazy just how each kid and you have two as well, boy and girl. So it's kind of like it's interesting because you do it. I think it's easier to really see the difference because it's but like Julia, like if she could, she would get herself ready. She'd make her own breakfast. She would get all she would get in the car. She'd drive herself to school. She wants to do it herself. Like she wants to, and that's a lot like Erica, where it's just like she's always just gonna go do it herself. Me, like there's certain things that I'm like, if I'm really interested in something, like I'm gonna go do it. But if I'm not interested, like I'm gonna just kind of, I will. They call me Mr. Molasses. Like when I was the paper boy. Like, the one neighbor's like, he's like a Mr. Molasses out there, because I was just in no hurry to like. I mean, like, hey man, I gotta get this paper going. It's cold, and secretly I was listening to my Walkman inside. Like my mom didn't want me to listen to some of the music, but I was like, that was another motivator. Is when I was living the paper, is I was listening to the approved music. But I would like switch out the cassette tape and all that. So that's all. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, that's.
You're dating yourself by saying cassette tape.
Oh, dude, the Walkman, man. Like, it just make your own mixtape on there, like literally mixtape. But JJ, like he's the oldest. I'm like, all right, JJ. Number one thing, folks, I just need to get your socks on. I feel like it's like so many times if I don't step in, like he would like never leave the house and never be dressed, and he would die of starvation because he just he's just like, he's not like, he's a wonderful kid. He's just much rather just kind of play with whatever is going on, and then like but when it comes to more like the fundamentals of life, it's gonna be interesting. Me and him are gonna have to like figure out how to survive together, so it'll be good. But yeah, man. So I guess how did becoming a dad change your life? So like Team IBB, we talk about life, love, legacy. So like, I know for me it was like the ultimate life change. Ultimate life change. So how did that go for you? Like walk me through that moment.
Very much the same. I mean, you know what's coming.
Yep.
So I mean,
but do you really know?
You have 9 months to plan, but it's still a shock to the system. Yeah, when it happens, because all of a sudden it's like it's real. And but I will say there's a line. There's a line that I use, and I don't know where I heard it, so I can't give due credit. Is I remember life, how easy life was before kids, but I can't imagine life without them. Yep. So and if you kind of break that into different levels, like for a first time parent, like you could say sleep is one of those first thing, because before you have kids, whenever you wanted to crash, you crash.
Yeah.
Once you have kids,
there's
feeding schedules, there's changing diapers, there's all those different things, and you actually realize how valuable sleep time is when you get it, because it's so interrupted. But if you kind of take that a couple steps deeper, is something as simple as activities like, hey, you're working on a project at home. Before you have kids, you know what? I need a part, I got to run to Lowe's. You hop in the car, you go, come back. And half the time I wouldn't even tell Laura, my wife, I was gone, and I'd be back before she even realized it was gone. But once you have kids, that's a coordinated effort.
Oh, yeah.
Are you watching them? Am I taking them?
Yep.
Are we getting the car seat? Whatever the circumstance is, because you got to make sure that responsibility is covered. But then I think at the deepest level, and this is the one that's true to heart, is the first time you actually meet your child, boy or girl, whatever, and you actually hold them, there's a switch that goes off, both in your brain and your heart. And it's just like that level of responsibility that you now have is, I am now responsible for a human life.
Yep.
You got to make sure they're fed, got to make sure they're clean, you got to make sure that they have all the things they need. And as an infant, it's a little bit more about the necessities, and as they grow older, it's more about teachings. How do I teach them how to be a good person? How do I teach them to be a good student? How do I teach them how to be a good human being or make good decisions, whatever it may be? But then, so you have that responsibility piece of it, but then there's that protector piece where you've literally just met somebody for that a few seconds maybe. But in your mind, you would step in front and take a bullet for that child without even a second thought. And that's that parental protector instinct that just kicks in, and you kind of hope it's all there, but you don't know until it happens.
Right.
And so it made me look at a lot of things differently once I became a parent, where it's like, something's minor, something's bigger. It's like, hey, you know what? Maybe I do need a life insurance policy, or you know what? Maybe I should make sure I'm wearing my seatbelt, or not going quite as fast down the highway, because
slow it
it's
down.
not just me anymore. It's the whole family unit.
Yeah, that's we may have talked this, but I remember the first time I held JJ, just like the words that, like the phrase or the words that came to my mind was just like, I gotta do more. It was, and whatever that, you don't realize what all that more is gonna be, but it is a constant, like, you gotta do more, and you gotta you're talking about like teaching, like we talk about too, like the car ride. To school, from school to the game, from the game, like that's been, I think, like that's been the best.
Absolutely.
And I think of you too, because we've talked about that, where I'm like, holy cow, this is we're having the most important conversation I'm gonna have with him like the entire month, just because he did something at jiu-jitsu. And then but I remember like telling him like I can't until it happens. Like I can't teach you everything until it happens. So like don't feel bad. Like, and I love saying like, why did you make a mistake? Because I'm human. Does every human make mistakes? Yeah, like every human in the history of time has made mistake after mistake. Like Dad makes 27 mistakes every day, minimum. Just like
I make 27 mistakes before breakfast.
That's it. Like, so take that. No, so it's mistakes are the breakfast of champions. Right?
There you go.
We have to remember that. Remember that mistakes are the breakfast of champions, especially if you're going to be a number one dad like Jason here. So awesome, man. So like, yeah, what else? What else? Anything else you would add to that?
Um, I think like I said, your perspective just changes, and you touched on something about how I got to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another way that I think of that, a very similar thought pattern, is all of a sudden it's not about me, or not about we. If you're thinking you and like in my case, Laura, your wife, or whatever, and it's no longer about you. It's about that child that's now.
Yeah.
If it's your first child, obviously that. If you have multiple children, it's about them collectively. Your mission is now them. Your mission is no longer you. Anything that you do to improve is to make sure that you're providing a better life or better opportunity for them, because your whole focus shifts.
Yeah.
And it's again, you kind of hope, you kind of think or hope it's coming, because through the whole pregnancy, you know it's coming, but it's different when it happens. And it's, like I said, it's almost like this mental shift, not only in your brain, but in your heart. Because all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh. And it's got life, it's a whole different meaning.
Yeah. It's, yeah, man, you can't put it into words. So those, any of you expecting to be a dad or a parent, it's coming.
Yep.
You don't know what's coming, but it's coming.
Right.
But awesome. So the second thing, so it's the life, love, legacy. So love is like, what do you love most about being a dad?
There's a lot of things. One, it's challenging because there's a lot of things you don't know. There's a lot of things you're going to endure with your kids, what they do and how you react. Whatever decisions you have to make it as a family, because sometimes they're not always easy. So it's one hell of a challenge, but it's also one heck of a ride.
Yes.
And but I will say, like, if I'm an engineer, I like to kind of break things into sections.
Yeah.
So like when my kids were infants, the one thing that I loved the most is when they fell asleep in my arms or on my chest, like if you're sitting in a chair or whatever. And the funny thing is that feeling, that coziness, that snuggling that they're doing with you, and then the realization that you don't want it to end.
Yeah.
So if they're sleeping for a long time, you're not moving for a long time.
Yeah.
Your arms may be going numb,
but
you're gonna sit there and enjoy it.
So I was always, speaking of like home base, like my mom owns a daycare, and like it was just when she bought it, me and my brothers just like, hey, you now work at the daycare where I tell you to work, when I tell you to work, and it's so just kind of like. So I remember I started like the school age, like 5 to 10-year-olds, and then it's like got good there, and she moved me down to the preschool, got good there, moved down to toddler, and then she put me in the infant room, and I was terrified. And I just remember like even if I was holding like a baby for like 5 seconds, I felt like my arms were cramping up. I felt like, and even I remember at our baby shower, Gary had just had Quinn, and I see him, he just lugging her around, carrying her everywhere, doing it, and I'm just like, did you ever like carry babies and kids around before you had Quinn? He's like, no. And I was just like, is it hard? Like, just because any other experience I had holding a baby, I would just get so nervous that it was like my whole body would lock up. But then it's like the second it's your kid, you could just. And I remember being like, holy cow, it's my kid. And I'm just going for hours, like just walking around the house trying to get JJ to sleep or Julia to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's just like
the pacing, the little baby rock.
Oh, she's like, come on. And like,
yep, we've all been there.
Yeah. So, okay. So infant stage. Yeah, dude, hold them. And
and then like, so if you kind of think in phases, my kids are now teenagers, so we're kind of in the later phases, but like when they're young, maybe toddlers, maybe early elementary school, anytime they have a new experience, the thing that always amazed me was the wonderment in their face. I mean, I remember Mallory, my daughter, we were down at Disney World, and they were doing something like with the lighting in the castle at the end of the night. And again, you're holding your kid up so they can see, but by then they're not small anymore. So my arms were jello at the end, but yet it was all worth it because I found myself watching her face, not any of the show.
Yep.
Because she was in such wonderment.
Yeah.
And so obviously Disney's a bigger event, but even little things like going to the zoo or even something in the backyard.
And you just forget like counting or addition or something. Like JJ a couple weeks ago walked in the door and he's like, Dad, 3 times 6 is, I gotta make sure I got my multiplication right. 3 times 6 is 18. I'm like, you're right. And it's like, it's every little thing that amazes them, but also too, it's like you're in amazement, like the wonderment, like that wonderment, like I think it goes both ways, because
that's a good point.
They're in awe of what's happening, and then you're just in awe of like how amazing this little moment is, right? So yeah, dude, it's like, I don't know, and that's why I love like doing these dad talks and it's like, I feel like, and your kids are like those teenage years, just like they're great years, a great memory, but it's like, I feel just a lot of society, a lot of the peer pressure, it just sucks the fun out of everything, and it like can, you kind of lose that fun part of your life a lot of times, because you feel like, well, I gotta fall, like especially when you get a job, right, and you gotta like, well, I guess I gotta be professional now. And it's like, so it's like, dude, you can still be professional and fun, right? And you can still enjoy things, but yeah, man, it's cool to see, like, man, not everybody just wakes up day one out of the womb knowing everything, right?
Yeah, you know nothing. You gotta learn on the way.
Nothing. So the wonderment of those years. So what else?
In those same years, I call it the happy feet. It's and we've talked about this before, is if you've been at work all day and you come home, the kids either hear your car coming in the driveway or they hear the door, and they come running around the kitchen to see, or to the door to see you, and you hear the pitter patter of those feet. It doesn't matter how bad of a day you've had, it's gone in that moment. Because it's just that excitement that you're home, that excitement that you're with them, and picking your kids up, hugging them, and that is one of my favorite things of that age. And unfortunately, as they grow older, that kind of fades a little bit, but it's replaced by other things.
Well, yeah,
and that every phase has its highlights.
As much as I love Zelda, that's one thing. Like now, so Julia's turned 4, Julia's turned 6. Is like I walk in, and I still hear the daddy, Julia's still running, and JJ's locked in on Zelda or whatever, just Pokemon, whatever. But yes, when he's not locked in on the game, he's so mean. Like, you just put a screen in front of him.
Well, they dive right in.
Dude, it could be something. It doesn't have to be something we like. Like this is my dad. This is me. Like, it's just like, it's like a family tradition of just you get in front of any TV, any form, and it's just like.
Go in the box.
Dude, Erica will be like, "Are you enjoying that commercial?" I'm like, "Yeah, I like, yeah."
And I'm just as guilty to do it. My kids do it, I do it too. I mean,
you just get zoom right in there. So no, dude, the happy feet. Oh,
love the happy feet.
So good, yeah.
And then now, like I mentioned, my kids, Jaden and Mallory, are in their teenage years. Jaden's 16, Mallory's 14, and so a little different phase now. But what's cool about this phase is watching them go from kid to semi-adult to adult, and just their thought process, the discussions you can have. We're having real world discussions. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It all depends on the topic. Sometimes they think they know everything, and you got to remind them, I was your age once and thought I knew everything, and I learned quickly. I don't, but it's pretty wild watching that transition. And then and the other piece of the two is they get into things, and you want to spur their interest and all that kind of stuff. It can be a busy time, but you know what? It's a blessing and a curse when you kind of get to that phase, because you realize pretty soon they're going to be done with high school. If it's college or whatever else is next, you're turning into more of those adult phases of that life, and the dependency on parents will never fully go away, but it'll be different. And so you're realizing that, oh my gosh, what I thought was going to be a lifetime is that 18-year, 20-year everyday commitment is winding down, and it's it's changing phases yet again, and
Yeah.
so it's a blessing and a curse with that, because it's amazing to see them turn into the people they're going to be, but on the flip side, you realize there's that at some point they're going to leave the nest, and once you become a dad or a parent, I don't know that you're ever ready for that. You want it to happen. You want to see your kids have that opportunity.
It's like your number one job is to get them ready for your saddest day of them.
Yes.
You know what I mean, of them like flying the coop, going, taking on the world by themselves. It's like you want them ready, but at the same time you're just like, this sucks.
No, absolutely. It's a challenge, but you know what? That's part of the whole roller coaster, the whole experience, and it's you hear this in other phases. It's like, you know what? Enjoy the ride, because it's not about the destination; it's about the ride along the way. And so, just enjoy the ups and downs. And it's a roller coaster, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, and I know too, like, just because I've seen like the baby phase, like it's. I mean, it just they don't go anywhere. So what's nice is you can like set them down and go, like, it's like you're like leaving for a long time, but you don't have to worry about like they're not gonna just run off, right? Like that. And I remember like during quarantine, Julia started walking, and then JJ also figured out how to get out of the sliding door.
Oh, so okay.
I was down the base. It was like I was on work. It was my official time to work, so I'm in the basement in my office, like doing it. I come up. She's like, James, I'm trying to get some work done. They're in the back room in the playroom, and I look out, and there's JJ just streaking across the backyard in his diaper. I don't know if he had a diaper or he's in his underwear or whatever, but just like, okay, I guess we're at that phase where they can do that now. But like, you feel too like it's like when you feel like you finally mastered whatever phase they're in,
it changes
just instantly. Instantly.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, like I thought we were good here, but now that's okay. You don't like it anymore. But well, cool, man. Anything else to add to like the phases or what you love most about being a dad?
No, I think that kind of covers it. And I guess kind of in summary is it's always, like you said just now, it's always changing. Every time you think you got to figure it out, there's a new wrinkle.
Oh yeah.
And so you're learning just as much as they are. But again, that's kind of the beauty and the challenge of it, and just enjoy it all. The worst of times with your kids like that is still better than so many other things. So it's a roller coaster along the way. Enjoy the highs and lows, and it's a wild ride, and it goes fast. It really does.
Yeah. So on that note, man. So again, goes fast. Enjoy the ride. Cherish it. On that note, so the last pillar for Team IBB is legacy. So like, how do you want to be remembered as a dad?
I think for me, it's be present.
Say that again.
Be present.
Yeah,
be present. Okay. It's be a part of your kids' lives. I mean, we come home from work, we have busy schedules. If they want to go out and throw the ball around, if they want to play Zelda, if they want to do whatever.
Especially if they want to play Zelda.
Well, some things are easier to convince than others, but spend that time with your kids. Once they're a little older and they get into activities, be at the games, be at the concerts, be in the crowd, volunteer to coach, do all those things, because they may not realize it in the moment, but hopefully later they'll realize that you were there for them and you showed them support. And then likewise, and this is sometimes the challenge with the parent, is being present also means sometimes you have to deal with some challenges, and if something goes wrong and there's some consequences to their behavior, it doesn't always mean be their friend. That's the thing. That's the easy thing to do, but that's not necessarily the best thing to do. And at the moment, you may be public enemy number one, but hopefully later in life, they'll realize you did those things for their benefit. And since we're talking about legacy, like there's a line, and again, I don't know the author of this one either, so I can't give good credit, is the older you become, the wiser your parents are. So as I became an adult, and then eventually,
say that again too. Listen, we're listening.
The older you become, the wiser your parents are. Because as I moved into adulthood, and then eventually when I became a parent, I started seeing things from different angles and realizing some of the things that my parents were saying back in the day when I was younger that I may not have agreed with at the moment, but I realize the value and the lesson of that now. So when you're talking about legacy, at least for me in particular, it wouldn't be fair to not mention and give a lot of credit to not only both my parents, but especially my dad, because he was always very supportive. Both my parents were always very supportive. They were there for us, made a lot of sacrifices for us. A lot of them we didn't know at the time. You don't necessarily know and understand until you later. Made some tough decisions. We didn't always agree. My sisters and I were sometimes a handful. But so as I became a parent myself, there's times that I just wanted to pick up the phone and say, sorry, I now know what you meant, or one, thank you. And so I was lucky enough to have somebody in my life that is truly a role model for me now as I try to be a parent. And I hope that I am also that for my kids as they grow up and move forward. Awesome. And I just got to understand they may not totally understand that now, but I hope as they get older that they do have an appreciation for that as their perspectives change.
It's so true, man, because it's until you experience it, because like especially like when you're little I remember taking the first time and hopefully never happens, but you're probably gonna have quite a few ER visits with your infant or child. Like it's gonna happen. Hope it doesn't, but just be ready. But I remember like the first time with the fever.
Yes.
You know, you don't think of like a fever as just this terrifying thing, right? Because it was you just remember as you're older, like, oh, I take some ibuprofen, or it's like it's obviously get bad, but it's like usually by the time you're remembering things, like you don't realize how dangerous it can be. Took JJ to the ER, and it was just terrifying, and getting his fever down, and that's another thing where you're just like you're just going about your business, and boom, it's like what are you doing? Go to the ER. Like that's, everything else has to stop, But I remember calling my mom, just be like, I am so sorry for every time I had a fever, and she just started laughing. She's like, James, I remember you were I can't remember how it was, infant age, and she's like, your body went limp, like they were on the way to the ER, and I just like she's like it was just so terrifying. It was so scary. So fever, and then too, so like I don't I guess I knew that pregnancy was not sunshine and rainbows, but when people are like, oh yeah, it's like it's it's so wonderful at the birth of your child, and that like nobody tells you like what is really going on. Like what?
Oh, it's shocking.
Dude, it's you're just shocking. Like what, and so just that was another thing we're going. I'm like, why? I don't know why we're celebrating my birthday. Like, why I shouldn't get presents.
Get all the credit.
You need to get presents for my birthday because that was insane. Just
absolutely. And I was typical guy attitude of, anything a girl can do, a guy can do, and vice versa. I mean, equal rights. They could do anything a guy could do as well. Yeah. After watching my wife give birth, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that I would have survived that and gotten through it like she did. And it's so all the credit to the moms out there. Oh yes. We wouldn't be here without you.
Worthy.
Yeah,
not worthy.
Seriously. And it wasn't until I experienced it that it was like, oh my gosh. And the one thing that a comedian I think said this true is like, you know what, a mother that is pregnant and about to give birth, once the baby is born, is very taxing with sleep and feeding schedules and all that. But yet leading up to that, it's not like you're physically in a position where you're getting a ton of rest because you can't get comfortable. You can't lay down. You're not sleeping well during the night. You're like, you would think that that structure would be designed a little different where they're getting all this rest right before the baby's born, but it's not quite.
No, it's and you're just kind of standing there like, hey, keep it up, babe. You're doing great. Like,
well, and honestly, that was one thing. I mean, I was always a guy that liked to help out. I'm an engineer by trade, so a big part of my job is to solve problems.
Yep.
And when we were in that room going through the birthing process, I'm helpless. There's next to nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And that is one of the it was such a challenge for me because I wanted to try to be able to do something to be helpful, to try to take some of that burden either away from my wife or to help her move her through the process. Nothing I could do. Yep. It's out of my hands. I could just the best I could do was be supportive, and it's that was hard.
Yeah, that's so. We'll have to bleep out this next comment here, but and I try not to swear on our videos, but I think this is a good story. So I'm like, as a lot of people tell me, you're like Mr. Captain Motivation, Mr. Positivity, like you're very coachy. So it's the whole like where you're like helping with the legs, and like, all right, the contraction comes, you're like push, and so I'm like, you're doing great, babe. Like so every contraction, every push, I'm like, like you're doing great, you got this. And then that's when after like a few minutes that like Erica just looked me dead in the face. She's like, James, I do not need your motivational bullshit right now. Like and just I'm like, duly noted. And then you're just like, all right, I'm just gonna not say anything. Dude, like, and I don't know if that was part of your experience, but I'm like, oh my, I kept remember thinking like I'm like sweating to death, and I'm like my back hurts, my arms hurts, and I just in my mind I'm like, don't say anything. Don't say anything.
That's nothing compared to what she's going through.
Do not say a word. Yeah. So, but I do not need your motivation. Yeah. Yes, dear. Done. Yep. I got it. Yep. But yeah, man, crazy. So anything else to add? We'll get into the what's on your dad bucket list and the dad mantra. But like, is there anything else you would add on like how you want to be remembered?
Like I said, just be present and know that hopefully my kids realize that I did everything within my power that I thought was best to support them to be the best people they can be moving forward. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it all right, but at least my intentions are good. And then, one other little funny accolade is, and I mentioned my parents and the example that they were for me. One of the things that I realized, and we laughed about this when I would call my parents afterwards, is all those things as a kid that you heard that you said, when I'm a parent, I'm never saying that. Yeah. Or that's not going to be one of my rules. And then all of a sudden, when you're a parent, half the time, things will just slip out of your mouth. I'm like, oh my God, that's what my mom used to say. That's what my dad used to say. And it's like, where did that come from? Yeah. And then you know where it came from, but it's just like, those were when you were that 8-year-old self, and they used to say whatever they said at the dinner table about finishing your food. I'm like, I'm never making my kids do that. And then not only are you making them do it, but you're using the same exact words.
The same stuff.
And you realize that, they were right, because they wanted you to make sure you got the right nutrition and you can't eat cupcakes all day and all that kind of stuff.
Like I said, exactly like you said. It just comes out, and you're like, okay, I get, but it's all in there.
Yes.
And I'm sure, like, it's like you don't think there's so many times that you try to have these talks, and you're like, they're not listening, like they're not, and like I'm not getting through to them. But it's usually like if they're around like someone else, and then your words come out their mouth, and you're like,
yes, I got it.
Got it.
Hopefully it's the right words.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, right. So, hopefully, gotta have the.
Not gonna lie, I made that mistake once or twice where they overheard a word they shouldn't have said, and then you got a 4-year-old on the playground.
You just gotta like pedal back, like. But awesome, well, very good. So, and being present, man, it seems so easy, but like, and that's back to your enjoy the ride thing. It's like. There's so many distractions.
Yes.
Constantly, and just like being there with them, like that's what they're gonna remember.
Yes.
So, cool. So what is on your dad bucket list?
Well, a couple things on the bucket list, and some of these things you think about when you become a dad. Some of them you think about as you're going through that. Is the first thing that became a reality. For me, and it's something that I've tried to do, but obviously you got to keep up on it, is security. I want to make sure that no matter what happens to me, if something unfortunate happens on my car ride on the way home from work and I'm incapacitated or worse, is my family taken care of? So the life insurance, the making sure that you have it like investments or retirement, different things set up. So when you're not around, if you're not around, I mean, we have retirement plans for when we hopefully retire.
Right.
But if something should happen to me earlier in life, well, that is now a foundation for my wife and kids to be able to sustain their life. So you think a lot about that. Not necessarily a conversation you have with your kids. That's more of a you're with your spouse. But definitely something that's conscious. And then I think with my kids or with our family and all that is, it's not so much about the stuff, but focus on the experiences.
Yes.
Those experiences could be just time with you as parents. That could be vacations. They could be different opportunities. Like both my kids are big into sports and they love playing soccer. So you know what? If they want to play on that club team, all right, it's a few extra dollars here or there. You tighten your purse string somewhere else to make that happen, and then maybe you're spending a weekend away at a tournament. But you know what? That's what they love. That's an experience they're going to have. Are they going to be a professional athlete? Probably not. But the lessons that they're going to get from being a part of a team and being a part of a structure, dealing with winning and dealing with losing,
it's the best,
and how to handle that is those are life lessons. So yes, it's a sport, but when I look at it, their takeaway are the life lessons that go with it.
Totally.
And that's just one example.
Yeah. Well, too, when I believe when we met, I was still coaching cross country or track.
Right.
But that I'll never forget. Like I don't remember what exact day it was, but I still, in my mind, I still remember that moment walking on the track, and I've been like coaching probably for a couple months at that point, and because it was just like the second you're on the track, everything else went away. Like you had to be like, it was just like, all right, and just like again being a parent, it's like sick kid, all right, well, everything else stops. But it was this walking over to like the other side of the track where everybody was for practice, and I'm looking around like, this is all cover up. This is all a giant cover up. Sports is just a giant cover up to get you ready for life.
Yeah.
You know, the like you said, the teamwork, the collaboration, the anger management of losing.
Yes.
You know, like because if you want to succeed in life, you can't escape other humans.
No,
you can't. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna
whether you like it or not.
You know. So, but no, that's cool. That's very cool.
In my kids have particularly gravitated to sports, but it could be any extracurricular activity. But it's I mean, band, other music programs, plays, all sorts of stuff. But it's having those experiences, having them learn how to express themselves, and also deal with some of the working with others and some of the challenges that comes with it. And the other thing too is you can make a lot of cool memories doing that too. It's in the moment you may feel like, oh, my schedule's all over the place, but again, it's that roller coaster. It's being present, enjoy the ride, because at some point they're going to grow up and they're going to leave the nest, and then you're going to look, in my case, Laura and I are going to look at each other and like, all right, what now? And now there's a lot of things we're excited about with that too. But on the flip side, it's going to be different, and it's going to be an adjustment, and it's and we'll probably still talk about the kids a lot.
Well, that's and I'd be interested like your first, because Jaden's oldest, right? So like after Jaden was born, and I don't know if you remember the first date night you went on without, like, as parents without the kid. Like me and Erica, the whole like date night, we dropped JJ off at her mom's, was just looking at pictures of JJ and look how good. Like, so it's like, even when you're not with them, you're always talking about them. You're always thinking about them, and
what's next? Like, what do they need to do? I mean, if Jaden with he's near the end of his sophomore year in high school, so now you're starting to think colleges. So it's like, all right, what's he need to do with that? How do we need to do this? What do we want to look? So it's constantly on your mind and your forefront. So it's extremely difficult. They say don't have that date night, focus on each other, but your focus on each other is focus on what's important to both of you, which is typically your kids. So it still ends up being a centerpiece. But
that's cool, man. It's and and I don't know if you've done this or you want to steal it, but like Erica, I've been into like this whole bucket list thing and into this whole, like again more experience, right? Because again, it's just naturally I'm just like we can't do that. Like we need to say we need to prepare for the future.
Right,
like we can do that when we're retired or whatever. But like so just kind of again, it's the unwinding of my own brain and how I'm just so wired. But the she got me. She's like, you know about this experience, bucket list stuff. She got me. It's like I can't remember the exact name of the book, but it's like a date night adventure book where
nice.
you don't know. They give you clues, but you don't know what your date's gonna be. So
kind of make it up as you go along.
So it's like they get you have to like it's like a lotto ticket. Like you scratch off what the date is. Yeah. So it's kind of like
cool.
So the kids were staying at their mom's house, and we just were going through like different because they have different sections, and so again, it's like it's not like you're completely not knowing what you're gonna do. So they kind of like you like understand like the overall theme of the date, but it was like date roulette, and so we scratched it off, and it was like you go to a restaurant you've never been to, and then you sit down, and when the server comes, say just order us two of your favorite meals. Don't tell us what it is, just bring it out, and then you go to a movie, and you don't look at what movies are playing, you just go at whatever movie's playing next
is what you
go to, and it was amazing, man. Like it was just because, and I don't know, man. Like it's like you want to get what you like, but also too, that's the beauty of being married. You don't like a lot, like you like very little of the same things, right?
Right.
So like you don't agree on a lot, but like so I kind of took like that whole like well we're gonna like well what are you in the mood for blah blah blah. So kind of took that out. But the movie is Cocaine Bear. Like I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, I've seen the previews.
It's we would never have watched it, but dude, the whole movie we're just like it's hard to describe what it was like. There was a lot of parts that were just hilarious, but it just the whole time it was extra funny to us because we're both like we would never have seen this movie, never been here, but like that's just kind of like Cocaine Bear is like our joke now. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So just kind of like yeah, man, just the date roulette if you can just.
I like that. I'm going to shamelessly steal that.
Dude, do it. So, but well, cool, man. All right. So the last question is, what's your dad mantra? And some people it's like it's a poem, it's a lyric, it's a saying, but like whatever it might be something that your dad told you. But what would you say your mantra is?
In some ways, I'm glad you gave me a few of these questions up front because it gave me a lot of time to think and process. And I did give that one a little thought because, you've heard some themes of it already. Is I guess for me would be the be present. That would kind of be what I wanna is kind of like a core value to me. And part of it we've already talked about why is I think it's great for the kids. You want to show your support and all that, but what it also does is it's engagement for you. And the reality is, especially if you have multiple kids and jobs and a wife that has commitments and different things like that, schedules can get crazy and it can be hard. Sometimes it's divide and conquer and do different things. But I know one thing that Laura and I make a conscious effort of, if one kid's going one direction and one kid's going the other direction, is we try to make sure one of us is at everything. And then if I went to Jaden's thing last time, next time I'm going to Mallory's and she gets to go to Jaden's if there's also a conflict. And whenever we can, we try to go to both.
That's cool.
Because one, I think it's great to show the kids support. Two, they're such an important part of our lives. We want to have those experiences with them. And some people may call that a burden, but and it can get a little crazy. But that's also an amazing blessing to have that opportunity. And we've already talked about, like I already mentioned, Jaden's already a sophomore in high school. He's going into his junior year next year. The college tour starting. So crazy. Mallory's an 8th grader who's going into high school. So when you start doing the math, you're like, well, wait a minute. Jaden could potentially be, if he goes away to school, he could be out of the house in 2 years for a significant portion of time. Mallory 4 years behind that. And you realize that what you thought was an eternity,
dude,
it's over in a blink of an eye. It feels like yesterday we brought them both home and they were infants and we were up all night searching for pacifiers or changing diapers or whatever. And now we're getting college recruiting paperwork in the mail on a daily basis, and it's wild. Like, are we really here?
Is this really happening? Yeah.
Because they're as big as we are.
Yeah.
I don't feel that much older, but obviously I am. But and again, it's not so much, a lot of times in life, we focus on the destination. Where do I want to get to? I want to make this much money. I want to get to this career point. I want to have this big of a house, that we sometimes forget about the ride. And the one thing I'm realizing with the kids, it's all about the ride.
And it's like, I don't know about you, man, but it's, you know, it the happipiness and the joy, like, oh, I'm going to make this much money. And you do. Yeah. And you realize, well, it was never about the money. And then you're like, I'm going to get this position. And then you realize it's never about the position. It's never about, and you get the house. And you're like, and I remember we bought the house that we bought. And I remember, like, we moved from my condo. And it's like, again, we always joke, like, imagine trying to live in your condo with the kid. You know? But it was like, I'm like, man, we have so much space. Like, we have more space. And then, like, then the kids come and everything. But it's just like, you always find a way to fill it with whatever, right? And, but it's like, dude, it's never, if you're focusing on the thises and the that's and the things of life, like, it will never be in. It's just a empty, bottomless pit of, like, just false hopes. Or I mean, like, I'm not trying to, like, say, you know, do go get a house, like, do go achieve your goals, but, like, dude, enjoy. I think that's something about being a parent, being a dad. It's like, there is so much of it that is grueling.
Yes. Nobody loves changing diapers.
Nobody.
And if they say they do, they're lying.
No, it's like you're excited when it's over. Like,
yes.
It's like it's over and you're not covered in stuff, you know. But, like, yeah, man, just like, but I feel like the kids a lot of times they force you to be present in a way that you never could on your own.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I mean, like you said, have goals, have things that you want to try to achieve.
Yep.
And when you get there, that's the reward for the journey. And obviously, when you have something tangible like a career or a house or a car or whatever, that's fine. But, like, when it's your kids, they're a living, breathing thing with their own personalities. Yep. And oftentimes, you may have a vision in your head where you think they should go. Yep. They may or may not want to go that direction, and that's okay.
Yes.
And just all the conversations you have along the way, all the different experiences you have all the way. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. But you know what? The bad days may frustrate the hell out of you, but you're going to appreciate the good days even more. And that I know I'm using the roller coaster analogy a lot, but it's so true. But you know what? The reason we love roller coasters is the fear, the exhilaration, a little bit of the unknown sometimes when they have those hills and turns that you're not expecting. That's what makes the ride so much fun. Yes. So that is life. That is life with kids. And at the end of the day, when they're moving on to that next phase of your life, you're still going to support them. You're still going to have a lot of those same things, but your engagement points are going to change. But it's just enjoy it all the way, because the one thing is when you're getting up at 3 a.m. for a feeding, you're like, oh my God, when's this going to end? And you're going to blink.
It's over.
And you're at their graduation.
Yep. And
because, like I said, Jaden's 16, Mallory's 14, and it literally feels like yesterday they came home from the hospital.
Yeah. When JJ and Julia both went to my mom's daycare, and they had, like, their pre-K there, and I remember my mom was like, "Oh, make sure he dresses up," and like this, like, it was this whole ordeal about pre-K graduation, and I'm just like, again, you're busy, you're trying to do, you know, you're doing all this stuff, and I was like, "What's the big deal with pre-K? Like, what I don't understand. Like, what's the deal with pre-K graduation?" But then, like, you're sitting there, and then it finally dawned on me, like, this is, like, the most epic, monumental moment and accomplishment in JJ's life right now. And, like, this is huge. This is big. And it's like, it's, you know, it's like being present helps you not minimize.
Correct. That's a great way to put it.
It's like, it's so easy to minimize their accomplishments, because it's epic to them, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's epic to them, but you know, like, pre-K, just wait till the, you know, right? It's always, it's like that could be it's like your blessing, your curse is, you know, what's around the corner, right?
Yes.
You know, so, but the yeah, dude. So next thing you know, I'm like crying, like, oh, I'm so proud, you know. So just like you go, like it's like yeah, being present allows you to truly like soak that up, man. Soak it up. So,
Absolutely.
awesome.
And the thing is you're trying to teach them, but you're learning just as much along the way. It's in a lot of ways it's wild to think that, but it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a different person today than when they were born.
Yeah.
And I'm a different person today because of them.
Yep.
So I like to think more of it's good than bad.
Yep.
But I mean, like you said, we're human.
Yes.
We make mistakes along the way. You learn from those mistakes, and ultimately you're going to be better.
Awesome. Very good, man. Well, anything else that you would add?
No, one, I just want to say thank you for this conversation. I love our talks.
Yeah, man, me too.
Kind of off the record when we're having lunch, but it's great to kind of do this platform. And hopefully, like I said, I learn from other people. One of my things is when I coach is I'm always looking at other teams and what they're practicing and doing. I'm shamelessly stealing the things that I like. And my hope today is that exactly. Yeah. And my hope today is that through our conversation, obviously we talked a lot about our personal experiences, that hey, maybe there's a nugget or two that hit home for you and that you can use and help you be a better dad. Because ultimately we're all on the same side, and we want what's best for our kids.
We're all the paper cup of life. We're all
exactly.
We were talking about being number, like you become a dad, and you're just like used to be this like really important thing. At least you felt like that, and now like a lot of being a dad is like, nah, like it's about the kids. Nah, it's about me, or that's about this, and it's like, all right, like, But no, it's all good, man. It's that sacrifice, but yeah, man. Well, thank you for helping us carpe the dad life or seize the dad life. It's still trying to perfect that whole little slogan. We'll have to do a little more research and our language skills. So, but yeah, man. So thank you very much. Appreciate it, brother.
Anytime.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us. If this has been helpful, definitely let us know how, and share it with people you think could use a little dad life inspiration and expertise, and just. Well, if you want more, just talk to Jason. I steal everything from him, so it'll be good.
We steal from each other.
Yes, that's right.
Shamelessly.
Dads, it's okay. Like,
absolutely.
It's dads don't steal; they borrow.
Yes.
How's that? All right, cool. On that note, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time. My man, dude. My man.